Ba-da-da-da-da-da. Dungeons and Dopamine. Hi.
Hello.
Welcome to episode 37 of
Dungeons and Dopamine.
I'm Jess.
I'm Bre.
And love is in the air.
Yes. Love is all around us.
Your face just said, get out of my way. Get out of my life. Get out of this house, which is mine. But
but you have to go. It reminded me of a line from Love Actually, which for a long time was one of my favorite movies, and now I watch it and it's just has so many problematic relationships that I can't handle it anymore.
Yeah.
It's bad.
Well, normally there's no love in the air with this podcast, but it's Valentine's Day.
So we're going to force it.
Fake love. I have a lot of snacks sitting around me right now.
As do I. I drove all the way to Granville yesterday to buy nothing bundt cakes for my in-laws' birthday celebration, and it was totally worth it. But also I stopped at Walgreens before I drove there because I needed road snacks for the 45-minute drive. An hour and a half there and back, I guess. And everything that I usually bring here for podcasting was not buy one get one, but it was on sale if you buy two. So I have my chips and my gummy bears and my soda.
That too is probably a product of Valentine's Day.
Probably,
people
yeah.
who won't go to a store but are at Walgreens. I mean, I'm sorry. Walgreens is a store.
What?
I know. Mind blown. You learn so much every week here.
We are just chock full of tidbits of information.
All of the tidbits.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway. So I left off last week on Catacombs, which is not lovely. It was freaking awesome.
Really depends on how gothic you're feeling.
That's fair. There is a whole gothic love world out there.
Poe is famous for a reason. I mean, he was not before he died. That poor sad man
marrying his 13-year-old cousin.
Well, yeah, he was gross too.
I mean, that was a thing. So
yeah,
just because it was a thing doesn't mean it was okay. But I'm not.
That
talking
is
about
not
them,
love.
Oh gosh, no. Ew. Stockholm syndrome at best.
Yeah.
Stockholm syndrome at
Or
best.
just weird, shitty family situations that seems to have happened a lot back then.
Ugh.
Can you imagine arranged marriages? We watch Bridgerton because
I love Bridgerton.
It's amazing, but the whole time I'm like, this sounds awful. I'd be that sister that hates everything.
Yes.
And I'd just end up an old spinster aunt in my own little wing of my family's mansion because I can't live on my own.
You would be Lady. She's like the main character of Bridgerton.
Oh, the
Lady Tremaine is all I can think of. That's Cinderella's evil stepmother.
Thank you for not hoping I'd turn into an evil stepmother.
You couldn't. Your stepmother is an angel, and
oh my gosh, you're not kidding.
You would have not been able to learn how to be an evil stepmother.
She is the best human on this earth right now.
I'm not even trying to get anything from Alice. I just love her.
Yes, absolutely. After everything she's done for my dad over the last couple of years, I wish I had enough money to just send her away on a month-long pampering vacation.
Right? And she'd want your dad there after a week. She'd want your dad to be
right.
there
She'd
again.
be like, "This is lame. Can I come home?"
Oh, that's love.
It is love. Do you know that I introduced my dad and Alice?
I love that.
When I was, I don't know, I must have been 4-ish, and I was being babysat by my aunt. And my aunt had her friend Alice over, and my dad showed up to pick me up, and I was sitting on Alice's lap, and I had like fully chosen her. Every time she came over, I would like run to her, and I just hung out on her lap all the time. And so I introduced her to my dad, and now they've been married some obnoxiously long amount of time, like 30 years.
Oh, I'm dead. I love that. I didn't know that story for the longest time.
I don't know if I did either. I don't know if I had never asked or
put the pieces together because it just was how it was, kind of a thing. Oh, I love that.
She's amazing. I'm so lucky to have her.
That's like the perfect transition to what today's episode is going to be, because it's not about catacombs, and it's not about local government or non-local government or elections or plants. I have a plethora of your topics in my brain.
Right.
We're going to talk about love.
Because why not?
Exactly.
The day is fitting.
It's Love Day.
It is.
How much importance do you and Zach place on Valentine's Day?
Absolutely zero.
See?
Which is funny because, and we might get into Zach and I's how we met story. And the reason I decided to marry him was because he sent me tie-dye roses on Valentine's Day. And it was back before tie-dye roses were really common. It was the first time I had seen them. And now, like, Valentine's Day is approaching and we're looking at each other and we're like, you're not buying anything, right? Like, not one of those tricks where we say we're not going to buy each other stuff and you come home with, like, a dozen roses and I feel crappy because I didn't get you anything. Like, let's just get some clearance candy on February 15th.
Seriously. Yes. I agree. Ryan and I will sometimes celebrate just for fun. 1 year, maybe before we were married, but it was before kids, and I had seen that Brian Regan was going to be around in like April, so I bought him tickets to Brian Regan, and I decided to make it a whole like thing, because at the place I worked at you could buy like restaurant gift cards, but you'd get them 30% off.
Oh,
so
nice.
Like $100 gift card would be like $70.
That's a good deal.
It was a great deal. So I used that, and I got a gift card for a restaurant in Grand Rapids, and I was like, you know what, let's stay the night. So I did this whole thing and gave it to him as a Valentine's Day gift. But I probably would have done it regardless.
Right.
It would have been a gift to him somehow. For
like
something.
If it had happened in March, it would have been like a St. Patrick's Day present, even though no one's ever bought a St. Patrick's Day present.
Exactly. Or like, hey, it's Friday, I got you something.
Right. Let's celebrate.
But
what about with Carly? Do you buy Carly Valentine's Day presents?
Yeah.
Do you?
Yeah.
I thought you probably did.
Yeah.
I do not, because I just don't think about it.
Sure.
And I don't go into stores much anymore.
Right.
Because we get all of our groceries delivered.
Yeah. Yep.
So I forget about it, and then it's like 3 days before Valentine's Day, and the teacher's like, hey, we need a Valentine's Day box and some cards, and they have to be addressed, and the kid needs to write them in his own handwriting. And
we have all of our groceries delivered, almost all of our groceries delivered, but one of our like me and Carly's fun shopping trips, if we go together or just if we're all out, is Target. So a lot of times we'll grab things there. We do grab her class Valentine's early because it's harder to find the later you look. And I feel like as a girl, she's pickier about what she gives.
That makes sense.
If I bought her dinosaurs, or if she didn't like the kittens on the cards, we wouldn't be able to give them.
Meanwhile, I'm like, hey, Connor, I got you these Valentine's Day cards. And he's like, cool, Spider-Man.
Exactly. Dinosaurs.
Yeah.
Are those kittens, Mom? Okay, whatever.
Are those for girls? No, buddy. Okay.
Yeah. I don't know if it's just Carly and Connor that I would compare, but I just feel like girls sometimes are pickier.
Mm-hmm.
Who knows? I'll say that, and then we'll get a dozen text messages about, like, my girl's not pickier. Okay, sorry. Okay.
Sorry.
But, yeah, I mean, aside from the...
Do you do just Valentine's Day cards, like with whatever comes in the box, the extra tattoo or whatever?
Yeah.
Or are you like a Pinterest mom style where you put a whole bag together and it has like a theme with a funny pun?
Oh, that's adorable, and I would love to be that mom, but I am absolutely not.
God,
I don't have the
me
energy
too.
for it.
Yeah, same.
I like to buy the little cutesy Valentine gift for Carly. It's usually very small. I don't usually spend more than like 10, 15 bucks on it. Just a few little things that I throw together. Just that would be enough for her. She's just excited that there's something happening that's not the normal everyday thing.
And I feel like it's definitely a holiday that's more marketed towards girls anyway.
Yeah.
Like Connor doesn't want another stuffed animal.
Right.
He doesn't want, obviously, a lot of the stuff is like heart-shaped jewelry and stickers and
frilly.
Yeah. Then
He's
there's some
not
Teenage Mutant Ninja
interested.
Turtle
Yeah.
Valentine's Day cards with stickers, and he's fine.
Those are probably the best BTW.
He'll
I can't
probably
those
get
for Carly
clearance
anymore.
candy with us.
Yeah, exactly. That's
And
it.
he'll be just as happy about it.
So, are there any relationships you've been in where it was super important? Like when you were younger, did you really care?
Like as a teenager, the boyfriend always had to, like, there had to be a date planned, and I better get flowers and candy and all the things. And remember, there was always a dance. There was always a Valentine's Day dance.
And the carnations that you could buy for like $1 or whatever.
And have them delivered during class so everybody could stare at you. Loved that.
I feel like I never had a single boyfriend during Valentine's Day.
I do feel like
until I
we
was
joked
serious.
about that.
Yeah. Like the person I ended up marrying pre-Ryan was, I think, the only person I dated until Ryan, who I dated on Valentine's Day. And it was very important then that it was all done up. Right. But yeah, I mean, I had some friends who treated me really well. Like, I think you guys, one year, all band together and got me carnations.
Aw.
And that same year, a friend of ours sent flowers to my work, roses, like a dozen roses.
Forgot about that.
And all my coworkers were like, this isn't just a friend. I was like, no, he really is. And now I look back and I'm like, I'm so sorry, buddy. I didn't realize.
Oops. Yeah.
But I don't love Valentine's Day. It's not a thing I care about, but it is fun when we decide we're going to get into it. It's also a very mutually decided upon thing.
It's not like forced Ryan buy me shiny. Like, if Zach came home with jewelry on Valentine's Day, I'd be mad at him.
Sure.
Like, why would you spend that much money?
And that, like, now you've bought me a $150 heart necklace, which I'm not a big heart-shaped jewelry person. I have one piece of heart-shaped jewelry. No, forgive me. I have two. One of them has all these colorful, pretty, sparkly gemstones on it, which was a hit. The second one is my grandparents' thumbprints in hearts.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yes, and that's actually, total side note, I wear that one on really important occasions, like interviews, or if I feel like it's going to be a really rough day for some reason. And then I can put my thumb against their thumb, and it feels like they're there with me.
Quit it.
I know. I do feel like it's kind of, I'm using the word evil very lightly here. It's really evil for me to be like, hey, Bre, we're not going to do any Valentine's Day gifts, okay? And then I come home with like a heart-shaped piece of jewelry that cost me $150, and I'm beaming, and I'm like, it's so special, don't you love it? And you're like, first of all, I don't like heart-shaped stuff, and second of all, you told me we weren't doing anything, but now you're gonna be salty.
Right. And we share our finances.
Yes.
Like, it's not you buying me jewelry, it's us buying me jewelry.
And jewelry I don't particularly like.
And a holiday I don't particularly care to overly support.
If you said, like, hey, I just feel like I want to get you something really nice. Do you want to pick out a few things? Let me know what they are, and then I'll choose one.
Yeah.
And then what if I wanted a vacuum cleaner or something?
Right.
That's, like,
I needed that $150 to put towards my vacuum.
Exactly. So I do feel like it has to be agreed. Like, just.
And I understand people that want to go all out. Like,
yes.
And it's what a great holiday to just like show people you care for them and be extra nice to people and be lovey-dovey and treat your spouse a little better. Like, that's all great. I'm not gonna I'm not going to be mad about that. But also, you know, you don't have to feed into the commercialism and or the issues it can cause in relationships because it hasn't been communicated about what the expectations are or whether or not it's it's the same as birthdays. Like some people hate their birthday. They don't want to celebrate it. They don't want to be acknowledged. They don't care what you buy them. And some people, it means a lot to them. They want to be celebrated. They want a surprise party. They want gifts and decorations and to be showered with attention. It's all about having those discussions about expectations and being a Jessica's making kissy noises now.
I'm just so excited thinking about Valentine's Day.
I'm gonna give Ryan kisses.
We are actually celebrating Valentine's Day this year, but it is a completely opportunistic celebration because of and that's why we drink happening. By the time this airs, it'll be over, so I can say we're going to Chicago, we're spending overnight, and then he's going to show me around the area of Chicago he used to live in. And because of that, the tickets were my gift, plus so we're celebrating. It's going to be fun. I can't wait to go see the show. By the time we record again, I'll be able to talk about the show, and I'll be wishing that we will get to do shows someday.
We will. It'll just be us.
Just us, you and I, in that room over there.
I'll just rent out the Frohenthal just for us. They'll be like, you can have it, but it's like a Tuesday afternoon, and we're not letting you advertise. So it's just me and you and our husbands. And like
kids.
Your mom. My mom. No, my mom would have to work. Like 3 friends that happen to have Tuesdays off.
My mom claims that she's been watching or listening to the show.
She's been
watching. Then she'll be like, have you talked about the Titanic? Blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, Mom!
That's episode 1.
Or she'll send me the story. She literally sent me the story of the Michigan Dogman that I told. And I was like, so, you've really been enjoying things.
She's like, I don't know why, but I keep thinking about the Dogman of Michigan. Have you heard about him?
Don't we all?
Such a nice guy.
Love that dude. All right, speaking of my mom, have you ever heard how she and my dad met?
If I have, I do not remember, obviously.
So, my mom and dad have been married for 46 years.
Which is incredible.
Incredible.
I can't even believe they're old enough to have been married 46 years. It does not seem possible.
I completely agree with you. Not too long ago, maybe 5, 6 years ago, 10 years ago, time goes fast sometimes. They were on a vacation and someone asked if they were newlyweds.
Oh, that's adorable.
They still hold hands when they walk along and stuff like that. It's very cute. So, my mom met my dad at school accidentally. My dad ran up and put something around her neck.
Oh.
Because he thought she was another girl. And my mom thought he was a weirdo.
So she karate chopped him and threw him on the floor.
He got such a concussion that when he woke up, she lied and said they were married.
It's where the whole premise from Sleepless in Seattle or whatever that crazy movie is.
Great story, right?
It was
46 years. No, she thought he was a weirdo, and then the interaction was kind of over once he realized that she was not the girl he thought she was. But the girl who he thought she was, that he was putting something around their neck, was a friend of both of theirs, a mutual friend, and ended up getting married after high school, to which she had both my mom and my dad in the wedding.
Oh.
So they met at, like, the practice rehearsal thing, but on the way to the rehearsal dinner, my dad was embarrassed of his car because it's probably a piece of crap, and he kept trying to drive away from my mom instead of, 'cause she was trying to follow him. So he kept trying to drive away because he was embarrassed about his car.
You're like, no, quit looking. Quit looking at it.
So, like, he's really lucky after all of what happened that my mom still was like, yeah, okay, I'll give you a chance.
Right?
But they walked together during the wedding. Apparently, she made it to the rehearsal dinner, okay?
He couldn't lose her.
And then at the...
He was impressed with her car.
Exactly. This is some GTA crap right here. So at the reception, they like started dating or asked each other on dates or something. I don't know about that much, but
that part's not important.
No,
we are.
only the fun stuff. And 46 years later, with 2 kids, they're here with each other.
And their 2 kids and their 2 grandchildren.
Yes,
That is adorable.
I think
Your
it's very
parents are
cute.
adorable.
I know. They were 19 when they got married. They'd only been dating for 6 months.
Oh, that's right.
So it's a weird kind of beat the odds sort of story. I think it was still 46 years ago. I don't think people blinked very much when 19-year-olds got married. But I do also
It wasn't so much like it is now, where, like, if Connor gets engaged at 19, I'm going to be like, but honey,
Yeah.
please don't.
Yeah. Yep. And yeah. And they beat the odds. And to be completely honest, they've never had like a separation or a huge patch of like hating each other or anything that I feel like some of long-term relationships do have.
They don't have like separate bedrooms.
Yeah.
Like
no.
your dad golfs every day just to get away from your
Just
mom.
to be away from her. Yeah.
My friend Amber is recently, well, last February got engaged, and she's been single for 10 years and raised 2 babies. She's got 1 adult child and then 1 like high school age boy, and her fiance has 2 high school age boys. And she doesn't like, how do you integrate like they want to be together, they want to be married, they want to have a house together, but how do you integrate 2 lives of people that have been on their own doing their own thing for a decade, raising kids on their own, so their kids are kind of set in this, this is where we live, this is our routine, this is how things are. And then you want to like throw them together with all other almost adult children. And
with teenage boys especially, well, I mean, teenagers at all would be the way, but like, I feel like your whole world as a teen is kind of your high school identity. And so if you're, I'm going to throw out a bunch of labels that I think are dumb now that I'm an adult, but like a jock.
Right.
Or a nerd. Or a smart
theater
kid. Or a theater kid. There's a lot of different personalities that you might be able to mesh with. You had middle schoolers that age because they're scared of you and you're like, get along.
You have to get along or we're not going on spring break. I don't know.
Yeah.
But and she essentially slept by herself for 10 years and now to try to share a bedroom and then a bed with somebody else every night. I never thought about how, like, it's just supposed to be a cute love story. On all the movies, it's just, you know, they meet, they fall in love, they move in together, everything's happy, everything works out.
Shenanigans.
Yeah,
but
there's
then they
like
have a heartfelt talk, and
it just works out. And then you think about it, and you're like, no, really, like, if I was set in my ways for 10 years, could I just like let somebody waltz in and start sleeping in my bed and
especially if you're
snoring
an
in my
adult.
ear?
Because you're used to it as a kid and a teen and maybe even young age, like 20s, because you're sort of displaced all the time
and you're used to somebody else being in charge of the house and making the rules and setting the standards.
But now it's you, and you've done it for so long, and now you're supposed to incorporate together and have different.
And it's not like when you get married like when you're young and you come from maybe like some roommates or an apartment and you finally get a house together and like you build this dream together. It's like, no, I already have my dream built. Like, how does your dream fit into my dream?
Wow. Yeah, wow. Oh.
I told him that we should just start at like a millennial housing community where it's just like cookie cutter houses all next to each other, but her and her husband could just live in houses right next door to each other. There might be some like shared
Or a
space in
duplex
between.
with, like, one shared living room.
Yeah. Like, still have your own space, but you guys can have dinner together, and then the kids can still have their own space.
Yeah, no, I like that idea. That's a good one. Oh, that sounds frustrating.
Right.
Love is tricky.
It is.
Just trying to tie it back into our episode. So you want to hear 2 more really great love stories?
Absolutely, I do.
So my grandparents, they are both deceased, unfortunately. They met while they were at work. The really weird thing is that no one knows any of the rest of their story.
What?
None of my family know their story. None of us can remember any of it.
That is strange.
So, yeah, so sort of,
where did they work?
I don't remember. I think it was a shop.
Okay.
But the grandparents that I knew were like the idyllic grandparents.
They even looked
the
part.
Yeah, yep. Our kind of theory is that maybe in the beginning they had to work through a lot, and so they just didn't talk about it much. Mm-hmm. And then they had kids, and now I get to hear all the stories, which are just like literally fabulous, of my mom growing up. Her and her sisters were insane. If I tried to pull any of what they had pulled when I was a kid, I'd have been melted to a puddle.
Oh, for sure. Same with my mom and her sister.
Oh my gosh. They used to like stick their head out of the car and bark at boys and stuff like that when they drive past. They fought with each other so badly. I have a dictionary that was their dictionary when they were kids that
I remember that.
They wrote to and about each other in it.
I forgot about that.
We kept it since then, but they were pistols, and my grandma survived it all, which is amazing. But anyway, she and my grandpa, they loved to swing dance.
Oh, I love that.
They were on a television show one time because of their swing dancing. Mm-hmm. They were very, if you think of like the 50s sitcom family, mm-hmm. My grandma always had lunch ready for my grandpa when he got home. And that was kind of her love language to him. It wasn't so much he demanded it. In fact, my grandma was in charge.
I was going to say, I'm not sure your grandpa ever demanded anything a single day of his life.
And so she would have lunch ready for him. He would go do work or fishing or whatever, and when he got home, they would sit down at the kitchen table and eat lunch together. They sat down and they ate dinner together every night, and they played cards either on their porch during the summer or at their kitchen table in the winter. Mm-hmm. Every night. It was amazing. And then my grandma would light candles throughout the living room, and they would sit in their chairs and watch the news.
Of course.
Yep.
As you must.
News. Yep. Then she would blow out all the candles and they would go to bed. That was their routine.
They had a
routine. Years. My grandpa built their home. He built it from the ground up. I'm stuttering over my words because all I can think is like, why would he build the kitchen like that? But
my grandpa built that awful house. What a dummy.
Stupid. But yes, he built that house from the ground up. My mom and aunts grew up in it. And my grandma brought him lunch every day while he was making the house. And they were married for 63 years when my grandma finally passed. On Valentine's Day. She died like the day before or the day of Valentine's Day. I think her funeral was on Valentine's Day, so it must have been a little before. And it was very emotional because I knew that they were together for Valentine's Day. They never missed a Valentine's Day. So it's very cute. My other grandparents, just as a one-up, I guess, they were married for 75 years when my grandma passed just a few months ago. And they had met at a restaurant, and they had 4 children. They actually had 5 children. One didn't survive. He had an accident, and they met at the Bib and Tucker restaurant in Ferrysburg.
Okay.
They were both just at the restaurant and they met. They were married 75 years.
I can't imagine.
No.
I mean, I hope.
I want to imagine.
I would be old. But.
Yeah. Like, I'm excited for 10 years.
Right?
I mean, you can't get to 75 if you don't have 10. So I guess there's that. But
it's a start.
It blows my mind.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I don't know as much of their story as I want. I wanted to call my grandpa about it, but I had to edit our episode and I ran out of time.
Damn it, Jessica. Let's just call him now, live.
Oh, he'd probably love that.
I was able to ask I asked my dad, but he said he was pretty sure that my grandma and Grandpa Dobbin just met at high school. They went to high school together. So, but both my sets of grandparents were high school sweethearts.
Oh.
My mom told me, so none of my friends really know my dad's side very well. You might have met my grandma a couple times, but my grandpa died, I think I was only 7. He was young, like 55.
Wow.
But everybody knew my
Nana
mom's parents, my Nana and Papa. And the best part about this story to me is that Papa, for his entire life, would have told you that it was love at first sight.
Oh.
And it started, they lived in the same neighborhood. Nana had moved there from Tennessee.
Oh, okay.
And they met on a baseball field. And Nana said all she could remember, like, she had no interest in him, but he had a decent smile, I guess. And then she wasn't there long, only like a year, and they moved back to Tennessee. And then they moved back like a year later. I don't know the story on why they did that, but they did. And Papa said he was walking through the hallway and saw her and saw that she had come back and like beelined for her. And he, at the time, they went to Muskegon Heights, and he was like the all-star football guy. He was the quarterback.
That's so funny. That is not the image I have of Papa.
I know, right?
Of, like, farmer Papa.
Nope. He was an all-star football quarterback, and all of the girls were jealous of Nana. So she had a terrible time in high school because all the girls hated her because she had gotten, she had come from outside and got the star football player. And then I guess he had to pursue her for a little while before she would say yes. But then Papa joined the Marines. He actually graduated early to join the Marines to go fight in the Korean War. And Nana never graduated because she was instead helping Papa do all his work to graduate early. And then as soon as she shipped him off to the Marines, she quit school to plan their wedding. They were married his very first leave back from the Marines, and I couldn't even, it was over 50 years. It was, well, let's see, it was 50 years in 2004.
So 60 in 2014.
And I think but Papa died in 2012. So it would have been 58 years. Gosh. And they gave each other a lot of shit. And Nana did not stand down she was still they had meat and potatoes every night, and she cooked dinner for him every night. But she was a tough woman, and she gave just as hard as she got. So they were mean to each other sometimes, but they were also, like you said, just so in love. And I remember at their 50th anniversary party, it was the same summer that we graduated high school. And number one, they got all of my grandpa's brothers over, which had not happened in years because there was a family.
I remember that.
Yeah, there was like a family falling out, but they got all of his brothers there, and they danced at their 50th wedding in their backyard in the house that we just moved out of. They danced just like they had 50 years ago, and it was. I still have it. I had bought. I had to have my video camera that year, so I have it somewhere on tape for that.
On tape. We're old.
Yep.
So, speaking of, I want to say love at first sight, but technically it wasn't. But I want to tell you about, you were there, you lived it, but you don't know the brains of Ryan behind it.
You're right. I do not.
Because there weren't any.
Doesn't have any.
So, for Ryan and I, we met in, like, middle school.
Yep.
And we were just friends. Like, just that casual walk-by friends kind of thing.
Probably had a class together here or there. And
Yes.
we, like, had... His friends group was, like, Venn diagrammed with our friends group.
Yes.
So
Yes,
he was
exactly.
around sometimes, but he wasn't around.
Right. I do remember in high school, we had several classes together. I remember he was in a very serious relationship from almost like from almost like freshman year until 2009-ish or
Yeah.
something like that. And they broke up for a little while, and I very seriously considered asking him out in high school.
Mm-hmm.
And I wound up not doing it because I just felt like we had really different like values and everything. But I just always had a little bit of a crush on it. It wasn't anything like I would stalk him through the halls or anything, but just like
Not like the other ones.
not like all of the other ones.
Also, you guys, Jessica has a type. So if you went to Reese Puffer High School in the years 2001 to 2004, and were tall and skinny,
And a male.
and a male, yes, Jessica probably had a crush on you.
Especially if you were like a theater nerd.
Or a tiny bit goofy, or a little bit strange, or plaid pants, I don't know.
I wound up wearing those plaid pants.
So Ryan fit that bill.
He did.
Still does.
He does. But we flirted a lot, and we called each other friends, and we hung out, and we just, like, in my high school yearbook, I have, like, my senior yearbook. It's like, oh, you're a great person. Hopefully I'll see you around someday. Have a great life, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
We just assumed we'd be going our ways and be done.
See you at the 20-year class reunion.
Exactly, which I'm not going to. But anyway.
Side note. I think I'm going to be out of town that weekend. Isn't that your wedding anniversary weekend?
I don't know.
10th?
I don't know when
Isn't
it's
your
happening.
wedding
Yeah,
anniversary August 10th?
Yeah.
Yeah, so do you want to go to a
Darn.
20-year anniversary or 20-year reunion on your 11-year wedding anniversary?
Absolutely. So that I can... No.
Can't even continue the sentence.
can't, no.
No.
So... we had a few interactions on, like, Facebook and stuff as we went through college and other mistakes that I made.
College.
I remember one time he was really excited about soccer, and he posted something about the Netherlands, and I read it as the Neanderthals. Because I had to comment that.
I love that you remember that.
I probably only remember it because it came up when we started dating.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then we used to have a thing, our whole group of people, where we would show up to Applebee's, and I think
Wednesday
it was
night.
Wednesday nights, okay.
After 6 o'clock.
Yep.
After
It was 9.
9 o'clock, because
'Cause I
that's when
worked until
apps
9.
were half off.
Yep. And we would show up. There was usually a huge table of people, and whoever was there. We'd hang out, and then everyone would leave.
Until they kicked us out.
Yep. So I walked in one Wednesday, and I was like sporadic. I worked until 9 most nights. And so it was like, after closing the store, did I really want to go? I always looked like work fancy, and
Who else would be there?
yeah.
Mhm.
So I showed up, and I remember getting bombarded by Mallory and Christina at first.
Always.
And they were the first two I noticed, and the only two I was talking to for a really long time. And then I looked across the table, and there was a dude with long hair staring intently at me.
And you were like, wait a
And I was like,
second.
oh my gosh, it's Ryan!
In just that tone.
I'm positive. And I ran around the table, and I gave him a hug, and I gave Rob a hug because Rob was there.
Of course.
And And then from there on, we just started chit-chatting, and we'd see each other at Applebee's, and then eventually we shared numbers, and I pointed at you because you were there when he shared the number.
For all of it.
You and I went shopping and saw something that had a peacock, and we wanted to text it to him, but we couldn't because we didn't have his number. Anyway, that's why
I do vaguely remember that.
Yeah. You're welcome.
That summer was amazing, by the way. I had a blast with you guys.
I think so. Yeah, I think I had a really great summer as well. I mean, even for all the bad stuff that was going on that I was the only one that knew about.
Right?
That's my story of kind of how we very first started talking. It goes on farther.
She discounts that so much. She was like, yeah, and then we kind of like hung out and we kind of like exchanged numbers. And eventually we had some stuff in common, I guess. It was like instantaneous, you guys.
Well,
people
that's Ryan's version.
Could not understand. Like, everybody was like,
why haven't we seen this before?
What?
So Ryan's version is that one, he wasn't sure if he was even going to go that night. And then he got lost because he was so sheltered. And he was so sheltered as a kid that he didn't know. And he had just come back from Chicago, and it changed quite a bit after 6 years.
He couldn't get anywhere.
I never forgot. So he was there, and I was always late because of work. And he said that when I walked in the door, it was one of those hokey, like, rom-com moments where a light shined on me, and I was literally the only person that he could see in the whole room. And that was that. Like, he said that's why he stared at me until I acknowledged him, because I was the only person there at that point.
I'd call it cheesy, but I had the same moment with Zach, so. Commoners.
It's one of my favorite things to tell everyone, because it is cheesy, but it's him being cheesy, not me, so it's okay.
Right? True.
So that's his side of it, and that he went home and, like, we were already friends on Facebook, but he went to Facebook and looked at all of my photos and everything I'd been doing.
He was like, who is this?
Yep. And
what was I missing?
What the heck is wrong with me? So much was wrong with you, Ryan, obviously.
Yeah.
And like went through and found a bunch of old photos and stuff of us. And he tried to pretend that he was looking for just like everyone from back then, but
well, yeah, because he had just reconnected with the whole group, so it makes sense for him to do
nostalgia. Yeah, and then we would, like, everything I said he understood or knew or
had already spoken.
Yeah. It was weird.
I remember.
But we've been married for 11 years, almost 11 years. We have a kid, and we've gone through a couple of house moves and a whole bunch of life crap. So I know that's a very short version of a very long story because there's so much more involved, but it's kind of cute.
It is cute.
I love the stop moment of, I've never thought that I'd be one of the people who walked into a room and someone was like,
there she is.
But I was. And apparently Zach also was.
Dude. I'm so mad about it.
Story.
Or I'm so mad about it now.
I'm salty.
No, it's actually, and I had forgotten how cute we were until I started rethinking this. So I remember Zach in high school. Zach went to high school with us too. My husband has very striking, beautiful blue eyes. So if you've met him once, you may not remember his name, but you will always remember his eyes.
They're those kind of blue that make his face brighter.
Yes. And I never spoke to him in high school. He was older than us.
He was in like a band and
much cooler than us.
Absolutely.
There was just no reason for me to speak to him. And he wasn't in theater, which is, the only type of boy I could approach at that point was if they were nerdy theater kids. And then, so I graduate high school, I go on with my life, and like 3 years later, I'm hanging out with my friend Jenna, and we go to her best friend Matt's house, who lives with Zach. And I remember I don't know, gosh, were we texting? We must have been texting by then, or maybe I like got home and got on Messenger or something and sent it to you, but I remember texting you and being like, I was just at Zach's house. I just met him for real. Like, he knows my name. And I was super stoked, and then never saw him again. Until a couple years later, and I'm sitting at Naughty's bar, which I used to be able to walk to from where I lived. And I'm with Jody, and we're just sitting there. We lived by each other, so we would go there on Friday or Saturday nights every once in a while. And Zach walked in the bar like he owned the place, because of course he did, and walked straight up to the bar and looked around the room, and we locked eyes, and it was like the whole room stopped. Like, the music stopped. It was like movie style. Everything faded away, and he walked straight to me and said, "Hey, darling, how you been?" And I know now, well, I knew then that he just really needed a place to sit, because we had a big booth for just the two of us, and the place was packed, and he had like 2 other people with him. But it worked out, because it turned out Jody had used to work with the girl. He was with like his friend and his friend's girlfriend, and Jody knew the girlfriend. And then from then on, it was just constant. Like clockwork, every couple months, I would run into Zach somewhere. And we went on one date, and it was crazy. And at the end of it, you know, he dropped me off, and I decided that as cute as he was and as nice and wonderful, he was living a much different lifestyle at the time. He was in a motorcycle club, and it was just not somewhere I envisioned myself ever being comfortable with. It was not a lifestyle that I was going to be able to live. And I couldn't imagine him like sitting next to me on the couch watching a movie.
Sure. I can picture him watching Glee with you.
Right. So I started just refusing his phone calls.
Oh, no.
I just ghosted him completely, which kind of felt good at the time. Like, I got to ghost Zach. And strangely enough, it turned out we both moved out of the state at almost the same time. He moved to Louisiana, and I went on my road trip. And then we both moved back to Michigan at almost the exact same time, and almost immediately started running into each other everywhere we went again. So there was one night, must have been like late August, early September, and we ran into each other, and I was like, you know what? The universe is obviously telling us something. I'm not, like, this is silly. We obviously have to give this a chance. And he said, well, you don't, like, I'm working right now. I'm gone for 2 weeks at a time, and you don't want anything to do with that. I was like, actually, I'm starting school in a few weeks, so I'm going to be working full-time and going to school full-time, and I just moved my pregnant sister into my house, and there's going to be an infant in my house. So, like, I'm not going to have a lot of time to see you either. And then by February, we were engaged.
And that was your fault.
It was my fault. Well, no, this is totally Zach's fault. Because as previously mentioned, he sent me tie-dye roses on our first Valentine's Day together.
Right.
And I got him at work, and one of my work friends was like, oh my gosh, he knows you so well, you should marry him. And I was like, well, it is Leap Day in a couple weeks. And we all stopped, and then I planned out my proposal. And so less than 6 months after officially starting to date Zach, I waited until midnight on February 29th of 2012, and I gave him a watch and proposed to him. And he said yes. And everybody thought we were insane, and all my friends were like, you've never been with anybody for more than 18 months. Are you sure you want to go straight from just meeting this guy to marrying him before you even pass that mark? And I was like, no, it's gonna be fine. And in a few weeks we'll celebrate 12 years of engagement anniversary.
Yes,
or
yeah.
3 years of engagement anniversaries, depending on how you feel about Leap Day.
3 years of anniversary and 11 years of marriage.
Yes,
Makes perfect sense.
I'm excited. So, yeah, I think we're doing all right. As crazy as the beginning was.
It's very cute. I knew most of the story, but I guess I didn't know all of the little gaps.
Well, and I always remember the first time we talked or saw each other is the Naughties moment.
Mm-hmm.
But no, it was because when I was writing it down, I was like, well, why would he have known me
Right, why would
at
he come
the
up
bar?
to me and, yeah.
Like, how did we have, oh, that's right, I met him, I was at his house.
Did he call you Darlin, because he didn't remember your name?
Probably. I don't hold that against him because he still doesn't remember
for sure.
anybody's name.
Yeah. Right, no. I mean, and if it was like a quick in passing and so much life was in between what happened,
Right.
it would make sense.
Well, like I said, those were his rougher days, so really the fact that he remembered me at all was impressive.
I mean, yes.
and by the side note, by the time we did reconnect and decided to try dating, he had left much of that life behind.
Oh, yeah.
And turned out he was totally the type of guy that wanted to sit on my couch and watch
Bridgerton,
or turns out his favorite movies are like Wall-E and How to Train Your Dragon. Zach will tell you that he knew he loved me the very first time he showed up at my house, and it was very shortly after I told him that we should date, because I had invited him over. I had just bought a motorcycle, and it had an electrical issue, and I invited him over to ask him for help with this electrical issue, and he showed up, and I had this tiny little garage that had one like desk lamp in it that I had plugged into the wall for light, and my only tools are this tiny toolkit that come with the motorcycle. So they're not for things like electrical issues. They're for things like motor and carburetor issues.
and very, very small ones.
Yeah. Like, you have to fix it on the side of the road to limp it home. Not like you're going to fix this all together. But he said that was the moment he knew he loved me. Because I was in it. I had torn it apart, and I had already fixed one issue, and I had traced down the problem with the blinker, and he still hates that motorcycle. But beyond that...
Do you still have it?
No, God, no.
Okay.
We sold it to Jared.
Well, I had a couple other things to talk about, and we ended up talking for an hour.
We did.
There's a lot of this that I think has to be cut, but it's still going to be a pretty long episode.
Yeah. All about love.
Love.
One fun fact I did want to add is and it actually came from a Kevin Hearn book, because of course it did. I was thinking about how the English language has like one word for love, and it doesn't matter what you're talking about. You can love food, you can love your husband, you can love your kid, you can love your friends, you can love the person on the TV. Like, we use it for everything. Just throwing.
I love popcorn.
Right. We just throw it out there and whatever sticks. But most, I don't know if I want to say most, but a lot of other languages don't actually have like a single word for love, because they have different, more specific words of that type of love. So familial love versus romantic love versus, well, nobody, like many other cultures don't even say things like, I love popcorn. They just stick with like, because I guess you shouldn't love popcorn. I don't know. But I thought that was interesting that we're just kind of throwing it at everything, and other cultures are like, yeah, but
calm down, guys. It's just popcorn.
Right.
No, I agree. And it's interesting that they have different words to explain different feelings. Like, they might be able to narrow it down to I love popcorn, but it's a different word.
It's not the same one you use for your husband.
Right. No, I do think that's very interesting. It could be a future like expansion topic on on all different words that have different expressions in other languages.
Yeah.
Sure, we'll go with that.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that makes enough sense to work. The look I'm giving Bre right now.
Just go with it. Just
Save me.
Run with it.
Save me.
So this was Dungeons and Dopamine Podcast, Love Edition.
Love. You can listen to us anywhere you stream podcasts, and also on YouTube.
You can also support us on Patreon, which is www.patreon.com/dungeonsdopamine.
I was making hand signals.
Just in case I didn't know.
Exactly. You can find us on Facebook, TikTok, Twitter, Insta, and Reddit.
You can also... I was
That's it.
yeah, you sure can.
You can. It's going to be great if you do.
You can reach out to us on any of those social medias and at dungeonsdopamine@yahoo.com. And we would love some interaction.
Yeah.
Tell us your love story.
Aw, yeah.
We love love.
We love love. Dungeons and Dopamine is edited and published by Argyle Pigeon Productions, and we love them.
We do.
I mean, that's sort of awful for me to say because I'm part of Argyle Pigeon Productions.
You should always love yourself.
Oh, yeah, I should.
We can have a whole episode. No. Okay, thanks.
Love
you. Bye.